Reddit, what is one thing that you hated that a guest did in your house? Going through my sofa and desk for spare change, not even secretly. They thought, or acted like, it was totally normal to pocket all the quarters they could find. Two separate people. Guest got S-faced. Out of the blue, he started chugging vodka and wouldn't let go of my girlfriend when she asked. I pulled them apart and he tried to punch me. I ended up pinning him to the ground until the cops and an ambulance came. He was belligerent, yelling "frick you" at the cops. Ended up in handcuffs for his ride to the air. Needless to say, he's no longer welcome. To top it off, my friend's boyfriend was also there. Instead of helping me restrain the unruly guy, this boyfriend was taking pictures and videos and doing shots of Fireball whiskey. I was worried we were going to end up with a second belligerent drunk. Let me guess, according to him, you're in butthole for calling the cops. Had a house in college with a few buddies to save money on rent. Had a communal beer rule for all the roommates. We all usually took turns picking up a 12-pack every few days to keep things stocked. Under 21 dude comes over in the middle of the night one weekend with a car full of girls and a cooler. These visits are common. We are used to random friends dropping by at all hours. He heads straight for the fridge with cooler in hand. Okay, cool. Dude got beer somehow and wants to chill. Nope. He is putting our beer in his cooler and then heads for the door. Gets upset when we shut that down and make him put the beer back. And says communal beer bro. Yeah. For the people that pay to live here. Dong. My dad used to be close friends with a guy named Ed. He and his wife invited us to all sorts of parties. Then to their vacation house as we got to know them better. My mom and I really bonded with Ed's wife. So my mom suggested inviting them to dinner at our house. When the day arrived, the first thing, other than a greeting, was her comment about the salad my mom put out. Oh, why is the lettuce wet? And she began rolling out jabs from there on out. She pet our dog and some hair came off. So in a very snobby tone she points out, Ed, do you see the clump of hair? They should vacuum. The final straw was when my dad asked Ed where they got the pizza for their one party when Queen Bee interjects, anyone who cuts their pizza with a knife over scissors, I cannot understand. The look of shock on my parents and my faces all must have been the same. We could not wait until they left. Needless to say, my dad stopped talking to Ed soon after. Good riddance. My friend trimmed his nails and left them on the floor because at his house his mom vacuums every day, whereas at my house we do it, not so often. He's probably the reason she has to hoover every day. My sister had a party at my house back when she was in high school. I was in middle school at the time, and one of her friends got really angry that some guy at the party wouldn't hook up with her. She decided to go through our freezer, find a pizza, unwrap it, and throw it at the guy who was sitting in my living room on the new carpet. Not only did she waste a perfectly good pizza, she left marks on the carpet and also swung the freezer door open so hard that it now makes a horrible cracking noise every time it's opened. She also asked if she could sleep in my bed that night because I was sleeping in the basement with my friends. That bee slept on the floor. I'm trying to think of a scenario where I would consider throwing a frozen pizza at someone. An acceptable response. I'm drawing a blank. Myself and my other flatmate just recently had an argument with our third flatmate over the behavior of his friend while a guest in our house. It's not one thing, because I couldn't choose which I hated the most. He walks right in without knocking. The third flatmate will leave the front door open for him, and he'll just break in through the security door downstairs. We've told them several times to freaking knock, but he just waltzes in whenever he likes, sometimes even when the third flatmate isn't even in the house. His idea of entertainment is to read out graphic accounts of debauchery from his phone and then laugh at them. I'm not sure if he genuinely thinks it's funny or if he's just trying to be edgy, but either way, what the frick. He also likes to entertain himself by drawing swastikas over my friend's whiteboard. Considering third flatmate is the only person in the flat that likes him and that whiteboard isn't even his, he really needs to stop that crap. We also have reason to believe he snoops through our things and possibly steals food. Needless to say, we've made it abundantly clear he's not welcome in the flat. Insult, disrespect my family, especially my father. I quietly asked my friend to leave because he insulted me by making fun of my father's weight. Something like that happened to me once. My little brother is a little shy and doesn't like crowds. She made fun of him and talked crap about him. Needless to say, we do not talk anymore. Once when I was about 15 years old, my aunt and uncle came over to visit. I was stoked. They were probably my favorite relatives. They were both youngish, and my uncle was really deep into cybercriminology. He was doing consulting work with the FBI at the time. Anyway, my bedroom was next to theirs, and in the middle of the night they started fricking really loudly. It was just really fricking weird. Who goes to visit family, knowing they're in a room next to a couple of kids, my brother was 9, and starts banging it out. It was really hard to look at them the same after that. Everything just had a pattern of awkwardness. I am so sorry. I would be so uncomfortable. I would just probably resort to utter denial and convince myself that their sounds were a result of them repeatedly and simultaneously stubbing their toes or getting percuts instead of them actually doing the deed. The thought of hearing relatives fricking makes me want to dry up and crumble away in the breeze. A guest discarded the fish I had made for lunch because he refused to eat around the bones. The bastard saw me come home from morning ice fishing, warm up, clean the fish, rainbows and bluegill, and fry them up. Took 2 bites and threw it in the trash instead of, say, giving it back to me or leaving his plate on the counter. No respect for the fish or my time and effort. That's xenophobic. I would have thrown him in the garbage. No one wastes delicious winter fish. Tells me what to do and how to do it. Was cooking bacon for him, and he says you're doing it wrong and, accidentally, dumps all the bacon onto my feet. I still have blisters. We were playing Xbox and he asked if he could download GTA on my Xbox. I said no, because I had almost no space, but when I took a bathroom break, he downloaded it and played it for the whole day. Later, when my mom got home, she said to please be quiet because she was going to take a nap. My friend told me what to be, then I kicked him out. I would have kicked him out after dumping bacon on my freaking feet. Complain about everything. Context. This girl is on welfare and we're financially independent. I was on welfare for the same reason as her but pulled myself together. She continues to party, sort of makes an effort to study and tries to make a little money through painting and making sculptures and stuff. So not useless, but lazy in general and pretty entitled. She came to visit a few years back. She complained about the decor, my own works, gifted art from friends, floral arrangements, some cute sculptures, etc. Asked me to buy some of her art to replace it. I politely declined. She complained the guest bed was a fold-in-half affair, as the guest room serves other poses. She complained that we buy basics food and wouldn't touch it. She complained that I generally eat Palia and didn't have enough holiday guest food, still wouldn't eat anything that was own brand. She complained it was cold. We live in an older rural house. We had a fire running, but it can still be nippy. We're used to it but did everything to keep the heating up and get her water bottles. You know, being considerate. She complained about how bad our TV was, only basic channels, and that our net was restricted at the time due to cash problems. She complained about how close we are as a couple and tried to turn us on each other, hilariously pathetic, but oh well. She complained we didn't have friends around she could talk to instead of us. Between complaining about the quality of service, she surfed the net on her iPad, talked about her latest expensive clothes, complained about how little she got to eat, complained that she didn't have a partner and generally whined about how little money she had as well as how much cool stuff she had. Also, one of her mates clued us in that she actually had plenty of cash at the time and was just scrounging. We kicked her out after a few days of that. The last day was the worst. So there was this chick that stayed at my house for about 5 weeks while they found a house and it was being prepared. Her husband is an old friend of my dad's, and my dad found this guy a job at his company. They had 2 small children, not including the 2 teens they left behind in Ohio when they moved out to Vegas, ages 3 and 1. List of things the bee did. 1. Told everyone she would cook dinners, only did so once. Also said she would clean up after her small children, never did. She lied to her husband and told him that she had cleaned, when she had actually just stayed on the couch all day. 2. The one night she did cook dinner, she cooked spaghetti. On this day 4 of the 6 people in my family had the runs, so they didn't eat. She yells at my mom about how my mom was afraid her spaghetti sauce was going to be better, so she lied and told us not to eat it. 3. Left sleeping pills out on countertops where my smaller siblings, 7 and 4 years old, could reach them. 4. We still have a ton of old toys from when I was smaller, because I normally took pretty good care of my stuff. This 3-year-old kid broke at least 60 little toys during the 5 weeks, leaving my 4-year-old sister devastated. 5. We eventually kicked them out for these reasons, and then some. My mom, after 4 months, still gets texts like "you're selfish little b. You use your husband and kids as a doormat." Lots of other stuff. 6. She left diapers out everywhere from her little 1-year-old. 7. Her kids drew on our baby grand piano with orange marker. She didn't even notice. 8. The day she left, she stole our toaster, lots of the toys, and a few other things. I think they are staying in an apartment somewhere, and I hope it's heck for her. Someone broke into my basement and tried to give herself an abortion once. After she fricked my husband in our bed. I had become fast friends with a woman from work who was renting a room in someone else's house. A fairly common thing where I live. She started telling stories about her roommate getting drunk and belligerent, and threatening suicide. Eventually she said it was getting worse, and she didn't feel safe, so she was going to find a new place. Out of concern, I offered her my couch for a week or 2 while she got sorted out. Everything started out fine, but she never found a place, and ended up staying for almost 4 months. During that time, she regularly drank to the point of blacking out, slept with at least 6 different men, including my husband's uncle, tried to frick me, and got fired from 3 jobs. I'm way too understanding, and very non-confrontational, but when I found out she was pregnant and didn't know who the father was, I asked that until she had made a decision about whether or not to abort. She not drink. She freaked out, and I had to ask her to find somewhere else to stay. She moved out, and I thought I had washed my hands of her. A few days later I came home from work and my husband told me she had stopped by while I was out to pick up the rest of her stuff. We had dinner, watched TV, and he got in the shower while I got ready for bed. When I pulled down the blankets to get into our marital bed, I found a piece of a condom wrapper. My marriage was a shambles anyway, for other reasons, so I didn't say anything about it to my husband. A week later, I brought a load of laundry down to the walkout basement and found a mattress laid on the floor, food wrappers, a battery-operated radio, several twat douches, and a large bag of some kind of herb. I googled and found that this particular herb can induce miscarriages if taken in large doses. I changed the lock on the basement and sent her a text message saying if I found evidence of her on our property again I would call the police. 3 days later she was fricking my neighbor in exchange for a place to stay. Edit 2. TLDR. Husband stuck his dong in crazy, and so did the rest of the town. In high school I threw a party and one of about 10 people hanging out in the basement snapped the neck of my 1972 Les Paul Custom. Nobody came forward. Broke my heart. Only story in this thread that made me tear up. My brother ate my last sleeve of Thin Mints from the freezer when he was staying with us. That was 8 years ago. Haven't spoken to him since. He's dead to me. The only thing I've ever stolen was a box of Thin Mints. At summer camp, every cabin was supposed to get a box. One group didn't know about the cookies, so I took their box and they were never the wiser. No regrets. Okay, I get it guys. No regrets. Snuck away from a casual backyard barbecue to go frick her boyfriend in my basement. I found the used condom on the floor the next day, just hanging out, nowhere near a trash can. When I was pretty young, maybe 5 or 6, we had some family visit from India. It was my mom's cousin and her kids, who were around the same age as me, making the kids my second cousins I guess. Anyway, my second cousin wasn't exactly familiar with Western customs, specifically, how Western toilets and bathrooms work. In India they were used to eliminating waste in a hole in the floor. This concept doesn't exist in most US households and this confused my second cousin significantly. This led to him having to take a massive crap, and finding no hole in the bathroom floor, simply crap his massive crap all over the floor in the hopes that it would get absorbed into the ground. TLDR. My second cousin from India got confused and took a massive crap on the bathroom floor. He probably then proceeded to wash his hands and face in the porcelain water basin that was on the floor. Had a Kirby vacuum salesman come in. We watched his whole presentation and my friend's wife offered him a drink. This is in Georgia. And he proceeds afterwards to go in the fridge and grab pizza. This no crap happened. I shouldn't talk crap about 6-year-olds, but my nephew once came over and crap all over the front of my toilet one night. He didn't tell me, and I only noticed the next morning when the crap had dried rock hard. I had to replace the toilet after multiple scrubbings failed to get all the crap off. Worst part is that his dad had to have known but just said, "Hey, frick it, I'll let someone else deal with my son's fesses." I just let it go. Tried to play rough with the cat, wrestling with him. The cat has a heart defect that causes potentially fatal palpitations, and I had to warn him to stop twice. It's not like he didn't know better, and he was a grown adult. I haven't invited the friend back since. I was having a party at my house and had to use the restroom. When I come back into the living room, this freaking prick is having an impromptu Mary Kay party. I am nice and just sit there while he takes an hour selling crap to my friends. Frick you anyone who does this stupid pyramid scheme balls. Last week I had a friend storm out of my dinner party because she didn't like that someone was arguing for points in categories. We let a friend of my daughter's stay in our house while he was a student teacher. He was desperately obese, well north of 500 pounds. I had to build a reinforced bed for him to sleep on, get seatbelt extenders for the car, because I drove him to his student teaching assignment every day, and so forth. Oh yeah, and he broke the bathtub by just crushing it. Poor fiberglass tub didn't stand a chance. He stayed with us for a full semester, didn't wash himself enough, we counseled him, hid food under his bed, we didn't deny him food, the kitchen was open to him anytime, and just generally terrorized my teenage sons. When he graduated, he thought he was coming back to live with us while he looked for a job. Nope. We had already tossed the bedding and the memory foam mattress topper, and cleaned the heck out of the room, and fixed the tub, and gotten therapy for the kids. Someone got high and shot my refrigerator at my old apartment. Luckily, the bullet missed all of the condiments within. The person ran away. Somehow, nobody in the neighborhood called the police. My sister-in-law changed her kid's crappy diaper right on our carpet in front of the TV as we were all watching a movie. I suggested to her that she could take him back to the bedroom, where if she smeared crap on the sheets, it would be easier to wash, but she said, "No, this is fine." Then I offered her a bag to put the crappy diaper in, but she decided it was just fine to toss it in the kitchen trash can. Side note, while stationed in Egypt, much of our medical research was on diseases that are transmitted through feces. I have a severe crap phobia. Drugs. Oh, also he left his Brazilian fiancée and their 1-year-old child here and moved to the other side of the country. That was nice of him. Stole the key to my business and made a copy of it, which he gave to some local juveniles. The juveniles took thousands of dollars worth of merchandise from me. Happy ending. Everyone was caught. Merchandise was returned. Restitution was made. House guest is now a felon. A kid almost shot my mom's eye out with his BB gun. I know he was kid, but you don't go shooting your BB gun everywhere as soon as you walk into people's houses. After getting us, me, a friend, and the guy I'm talking about, evicted from our last place and then freaking off to New York from California so he could spend a few weeks fricking my best friend's sister, he begged us to let him stay in our new place after he got back. During the week he spent with us, his stuff was strewn about everywhere in the house. He complained because I left for work while a CD was on repeat while he was there. He was sitting literally 5 feet away from the stereo where a simple button press or knob turn would have stopped it, and he yelled at us for leaving his food out on the counter when we hadn't touched his food. On top of that, he didn't tell us he had his cat with him. We assumed it was still with his mom, where it had been while he was in NY, and got butthurt when we explained that it was against our lease and we didn't want to get evicted again. He refused to keep the cat out of the windows, where our landlord could see it when he drove by, and proclaimed that it would be cruel and impossible to even try. All the while he was generally acting like a shithead and not being very grateful for the risk we were taking after he got us evicted from our last housing situation. However, my housemate and I didn't really see everything going until we compared notes. The situation came to a head when the weekend came. Shithead was going to visit some people an hour away and would be back Sunday night. The last thing he said as he walked out the door was, "I'm off to do all of blank's drugs." My housemate and I compared notes, realized the situation was much worse than either of us thought, and decided he had to go. Knowing what kind of guy Shithead was, and how long he could drag it out, we decided that the only thing to do was to get rid of him right away. We packed up all his crap, and when he got back we put his cat into a carrier and gave him his cat and his bag and told him he was persona non grata. Not a single friend was surprised or offended that we did that, so even though I still feel bad for having done it, I know I did the right thing. TLDR, rude guest is rude, goes off to do drugs. My wife's parents and her sister stayed in town with us for a week. Her sister made war on the upstairs toilet, tried to flush it and didn't tell anyone it was clogged. Her mother went in 2 hours later and dropped another juice on it in the dark. Tried to flush, threw down towels to soak it up, left it for me to find at 6 AM the next morning. Try to look your in-laws in the face after plunging their corn-laden crap out of your guest bathroom first thing in the morning. I had to shower again after my shower. I had to carry soaked crap-laden towels down the stairs and wash them. I had to tell my toddler that it wasn't grandma that stunk up the house. I had to scrub the bathtub from where the towels were thrown to the side. My nasal cavities are permanently scarred. I am not the same man anymore. Had a house party a good few years ago. Friend of mine went into my parents' room after I'd specifically told people that was the only room I'd like people to stay out of, and slept in their bed. Not cool, man. There was this exchange student with a French type name, let's call him Jake because I can't remember his real name, who was in a church group with my roommate in college. This guy was an all-around amiable fellow, but for whatever reason, this dude freaking reeked of BO. My roommate assumed it was either medical or just that in his culture, they didn't have the same bathing deodorant practices that we have in America. Fair enough, but Jake's was quite overweight, and bathing can be particularly important for overweight people, as any nurse who's had to clean them will tell you. Jake stayed on our couch for a week, because he needed a place to stay for some reason. Maybe his roommates kicked his stank butt out, and not once did he take a shower. This guy smelled so bad that I could follow him through the house with my eyes closed. Even after he left the room, you could tell he'd been there. It was honestly utterly disgusting, and I urged my roomie to have a conversation with him about it. I've never met anyone that smelled worse. After he left, you couldn't sit on the couch anymore. It became trash. This huge freaking douche that came uninvited to a house party I was throwing. This butthole had the gall to, while I was in the room, say, "Wow, I really feel like breaking something," and rip one of my kitchen's nice cabinets off by the hinges. I immediately went into rage mode and got a golf club and told him to get the frick out of my house. I found out later that he also stole a bunch of jewelry from my parents' room, almost 17k worth. He wouldn't admit he did it, so we got cops involved and he ended up going to jail and getting dropped from college, so he pretty much got what he deserved. What I wouldn't give to be able to take a swing at him though. A friend brought his 5-year-old son over and was too busy playing Xbox to monitor him. They allow him to discipline their cat, and the boy took it upon himself to hit my dogs for not doing what he wanted. I created them to spare them more abuse and corrected the boy that it's not okay to hit them. He runs off, grabs a copper music piece my grandpa gave me and shakes it. I take it from him gently and he flips out. They don't really tell him no, so he acts out even more. Did so this time by throwing DVDs and books off my bookcase, aims the books right at my dog's water bowl. I stop him and he runs off. I find him tossing 4 loads of folded laundry off my guest bed and into the floor. I put him in timeout and my friend didn't stop me. He asked about his parenting, and I let him know where I felt he needed to reinforce structure and limits on his son's behavior. They stayed another hour and left, but it will be a while before I will want his son over, which pains me BC. I'm a big believer in kids, spouses, etc. always being welcome wherever their parents are welcome. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.